Hello, dear friends. Today, in the АЛЛАТРА TV studio, we welcome the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov,
Greetings.
Жанна,
Greetings.
Igor Vladimirovich.
Greetings.
Climate chaos. This is how scientists describe the future of our planet, what awaits us with the climate. And they understand it first and foremost as the unpredictable behavior of the climate. But if you look at the facts and look at what is happening today, what climatic situation we have around the world, you understand that for some regions, this climate chaos has already occurred today. For some, it is already the reality of today. And interestingly, the UN tells us that cataclysms and disasters are already happening every week. And in principle, this is understood and seen by people who just go out one day and see what is happening right in front of them, what is happening outside their windows. And meteorologists themselves talk about this. They just do not understand where all these climatic anomalies, all these catastrophic phenomena suddenly break out from, like from a Pandora's box. And today, we're entering, say, a new decade, the 2020s, and people have a question: what can we expect from this decade, and what will be our future in it?
You know, it's a good question. What will be our future? And you know what is interesting and remarkable, I would say? It is that they take it seriously now. When you were telling this, I just recalled how we started to move in this direction and started telling people that look what will happen soon. Serious climatic disasters and changes are coming. The climate will change to such an extent that it will first affect the economy, then it will affect the lives of all of us, not just economically, but it will affect our everyday lives, that people will begin to resettle, that there will be migration, and then we will come to a situation which we won't be able to resolve anymore. I remember how we started, how we created the first precedents, when we told people about this, when our report was published. And I remember how we were pounced on from all sides. We may say we were scolded, called names, and insulted by those who are now telling about that. It's interesting how the situation is changing, isn't it?
Yes.
While we said that a little time would pass, that today would pass, tomorrow would come, and you would see it all.
Yes.
Tomorrow has come, and people have seen
Well,
this.
it's just that if before we addressed these issues to people for them to look around and see what's going on,
Surely.
now they're actually looking for this themselves. What is happening? Why is it changing so?
What will happen?
Yes.
Now they're already looking for solutions.
And thank God that our work, say, has not been in vain. We created precedents. We addressed a lot of scientists. Many were afraid to talk about the truth. Now you see how everyone started talking about this, and they already speak openly without being afraid for their reputation. And do you remember that just recently, when we addressed them, they said, "What are you talking about? What will they think of me? How can I say that?" And yet, what do we observe today? They again keep saying that all these climate changes are the consequences of the anthropogenic factor, that people are to blame. And what do they suggest? To fight.
Yes.
Yes, to fight. That's the key point.
And so I wonder, how are they going to fight? To cover the glaciers with blankets? Or what?
Well, now we know that in New York, they basically offer to build walls against hurricanes
Well, they want to build
in the
walls
next 25 years.
to save
yes.
New York, yes. But somehow they have planned for such a long term, for 25 years.
Yes.
Surely, to build in next 25 years.
Maybe the idea is not bad.
Who will build these walls in 25 years and who will need them in New York? It's a simple question. Everything is changing and happening so interestingly. Time passes very fast, and catastrophic changes always come much faster than people would like to. Well, I will return to the topic of we have to fight with these climate changes.
Already changes.
We must stop them. It's impossible. We can adapt and make some changes. We can save humanity. but it is already unrealistic to stop all the changes that have already occurred, yet they entail a number of other changes. Again, there is no doubt that people have greatly affected the ecology. Humanity has not affected the climate. It is a cyclical process, and many scientists know about this. Thank God, many people are already talking and talking openly, and this topic is being discussed. And you see, the leader of the United States totally rejects. And why does he reject the anthropogenic factor? Because he knows it's far from being the case. And why do they have to suffer colossal economic losses? Because someone has thought up that this is an anthropogenic factor. We know that there have been serious studies and no one has provided any evidence that,
The courts.
yes, that all this is due to the fact that human has interfered. And now we can already talk about this openly, and soon everyone will talk about this openly, and everyone will talk about the fact that we cannot change anything and we have to do something. But a simple question, what should we do?
Even some apathy manifests in people. Well, since nothing can be changed, meaning if you can't change or
If this is some kind of cyclical process,
affect the climate, then what to do in general?
yes,
Is it worth doing anything? And they give up. So what should be done? What role is assigned to people in all this?
May I tell them? I'll tell them what needs to be done now. But of course, no one will listen to me, and they won't do this. Just like when we warned them about it. But nevertheless, I will tell them what needs to be done. At the state level, what needs to be done in this case is to look for the most favorable places due to these changes and build there new cities, new factories, new farms for food production. This is what needs to be done now, because tomorrow will come. And when tomorrow comes, we will face the migration of billions of people. And in order for all this to be done in a planned and correct manner, they should start building it all not now, but they should have started building it all yesterday, because there isn't much time. Imagine building cities for the relocation of huge masses of people, setting up and launching production facilities, factories and everything else so that these masses can be served. Even with the most necessary, yes, food, clothing and everything else. After all, this requires not only time, but also enormous resources, and not only money, but also human resources and everything else. Masses of specialists should be involved in this. Well, it is absolutely necessary to do it now. Otherwise, a great calamity will occur. But the question is, will people start doing and talking about this? Talking just like they talk about the climate, right?
Yes.
It's not a good time and place to mention it now, but when we warned about other factors, not related to the climate, they also laughed at us and insulted us. And when this came true, they're silent now, right? Well, everyone has seen this truth. The same applies here. The same applies to what I've said, that it needs to be done now. And it is no longer the level of a single state, but the level of all humankind. And at this point, we really need to unite. And the most interesting thing is that there are attempts. For many years now, we have been saying that humanity must unite. Many do not understand. What for? How? What can we do being united? We can do a lot, my friends. We can change the world. We can save humanity. Or we can slide into chaos. But having united, we can really save humankind. I think this is extremely important, in my opinion, right?
Of course.
Well, now they have already started talking at the UN level. There are the first attempts to consolidate society as a whole.
calling people to unite,
Yes,
so that just everyone expresses their opinion, what needs to be improved, what steps need to be taken. And for this, of course, there isn't sort of live communication, but at the level of an online survey, sort of not...
well, this is at least the first attempt, the first steps. But why they fear?
Yes.
Fear the changes that are coming. But still, everyone perfectly understands that this is inevitable, because today it is already unrealistic to hide this.
Unrealistic.
If before that they somehow dissuaded and tried to hide, now this is, excuse me, even beyond.
It just happens everywhere.
And we already have 2020.
Yes.
And time, runs very fast. There remains less and less sand in this watch.
Time is accelerating.
Yes, exactly.
Everything is accelerating.
Even at the World Economic Forum, which was held from January 21st to 24th this year, the climate was the main topic of discussion.
Finally, thank God.
I mean, it has already got ahead of violence, wars, and came to the fore.
To the fore.
I just wonder what has won here, good sense, or the fact that has already come. It's just that why people don't hear when you tell them? Why do they not do what needs to be done? Yet imagine if at least 5 years ago, well, at least 4 years ago, they would have already started doing something, because we are now standing on, let's say, on the verge of a huge economic crisis that will make a lot of people just beggars, that will ruin entire countries. And all this will happen due to what? Due to that very climate changes. And this is inevitable. What's next? And then there will already be a forced mass migration of embittered, hungry people who are well armed and sometimes are well organized. What will happen to our world? And doesn't anyone really have a desire to solve this in a peaceful way? The question is being asked for a reason, because everyone will get into this slaughter. Well, someone thinks that no, it won't reach them. It will. It will reach everyone. And eventually, if there is such an uncivilized vector of development, then excuse me, the climate will develop accordingly in an uncivilized way, and no bunker will save anyone.
Yes, you see, people have a question. If I don't see the cataclysms outside my window, he sees that the houses have been destroyed, that events are already happening, but outside my window everything is fine. Maybe meteorologists just exaggerate.
They intimidate.
Intimidate.
They always intimidate, like for thousands of years they have been talking about the end of the world, up to the point that recently they schedule the end of the world every year, or even 3 times a year, or even more. It is natural that people's consciousness adapts to this and perceives it already as such a horror story, a scary story, and many simply started doing business on this. And everything is so funny and amusing.
Politicians too.
Surely.
Well, somehow I haven't seen those guys smiling in Davos, right?
Yes, right.
Well, they didn't smile much, and didn't protest, and didn't say these are fairy tales. Why? Because they know how to count. Exactly those gathered there who make the weather in the world, I mean in the economic world. And they are sitting and calculating their losses because they know very well that they will have to part with an enormous amount of money. Well, that's true.
Yes.
So it's just money. And tomorrow they will have to part with much more. The usual way of life. And then, excuse me, with what is called life. Well, isn't that right? It is. So we will sit, philosophize, discuss things, come up with, let's collect certain fees, fight the climate, produce less carbon dioxide emissions. We'd better lose a little now, but then we'll save. But what will they save? Since humanity will stop using hydrocarbons,
Well, yes.
nothing will change. In other words, we will create more problems for ourselves. We will stop using the energy sources we are used to, and which we extremely need now, and supposedly we will stop something. What will we be able to stop? A simple question for smart people: nothing. Because it's a chain reaction that you cannot stop already, and no one has cancelled the progression. If we just look what we talked about God knows when, and what for some reason was not taken into account, all this will develop in this cyclical process at a tremendous speed, in a crazy progression, and this is happening. Now I also came across an article that at the end of this century, the sea level will probably rise by 1 meter. Guys, God grant that at the end of this century, there will be at least some kind of, let's say so,
An islet of life.
an islet of life on this planet. That would be wonderful.
Yes, scientists themselves say that these are times of uncertainty, times when it is not clear what is going on or what to expect. They already describe the points of no return of climate changes, meaning there are certain changes after which
Of course,
the situation can't be reversed already.
this is impossible.
Yes, it's impossible. I mean, it's already only increasing, and there is a growing assertion that they are sort of increasing with geometric progression, and it is becoming more and more difficult to stop all this. And most importantly, under these conditions, even the scientists themselves appeal to the fact that we need to be first of all human. We need to unite and look for these
Ways of solving the current situation.
yes, the ways of solving the situation
Of course, it
together.
won't work out any other
that
way.
it is impossible to solve it individually.
If people do not unite, it will be the death of humanity in the literal sense. There is no other way. And again, guys, it's not a scary story. We were told back then that we scare people. Now they are saying that we are using trendy topics. Guys, it's not a trendy topic for us. And we don't scare anyone. We are talking about facts that are coming true. We are talking about what is happening tomorrow.
And it is surely very important that this unification comes from the people.
And how can it be otherwise?
We understand that scientists are already sounding the alarm. We see that some politicians talk about this, but consciousness tells many people, well, it was already. It was about that worm in 1925. Or there were similar floods in some year. But they surely don't take into account the fact that the chaos is precisely an unpredictable increase, first of all.
No, they don't. Can I add something?
Yes.
They talk about those cases which were
Single.
isolated cases.
Yes.
And now they are systematic.
Yes.
The difference between isolated cases and systematic ones is huge. Of course, there were moments of warming, there was something else. But humanity, for the first time in its history, is facing what we are coming to. It's the first experience of this humanity. And the question is, will our civilization survive or not?
Definitely.
It's like, I'll put it in simple terms. It's such a litmus test or a humanness test. But let's put it otherwise. Whether we are worthy to exist or not, there's no other way to put it.
Interestingly, even the climatic catastrophes that happened last year. We took, for example, the neighboring region in Russia. There was a series of disasters, floods and fires. And when the trouble happened there, people themselves united in some societies, created rescue squads, informed people, took out neighbors, saved people's property. But it was already during a disaster, and they were making decisions, they were putting out a fire. And thank goodness, they get organized at least like that. But it is possible to at least envisage everything, isn't it? Why should we allow the trouble to come to the house? After all, it is possible.
In order to unite after that, right?
Exactly, in order to unite after that.
And now you have touched upon the region Russia. As of today, everything comes mostly from Russia. Why? I will explain. The largest increase in temperature occurs in Russia, from 2 to 2.5 times. It is faster than anywhere else in the world. This is a catastrophe. And if we take what will happen next, this is, permafrost and everything else. The emissions after the defrosting of the permafrost, which will occur, they will accelerate even more. In other words, the progression will accelerate even faster. And this is already not far off. What do we see in places where permafrost was?
There is a swamp already.
There is a swamp already. And much more. But the most interesting thing is how people's consciousness works. We've just mentioned that the fastest climatic changes occur in Russia, in its territories. But what are politicians talking about? Sporadically. But they say that it is because the United States used some kind of...
Conspirologists, yes.
Yes.
Secret conspiracy.
Climatic weapon against Russia. Let's recall what happened a couple years ago. And the year before last one, in the United States of America. This year was more favorable for them. But what did they talk about? That Russia uses some kind of weapon against them. But this also led people away from a broader holistic view of what was happening. After all, it is much easier for someone to blame someone. Why? Because if Russia really used the climatic weapon against America, or America used it against Russia, or let's say some third country used it against them both, that would be great. Why? Today they use it, tomorrow they don't use it, right? And everything gets better. Whereas in fact, everything is much worse. In fact, all this happens exactly not by people's will.
And I would say that many people even welcome the increase in temperature. Everyone says, great, there is no winter, no need to wear sweaters and get winter clothes.
Wonderful, right?
Yes.
Tourists.
Those very Russians said that new opportunities will open
Exactly,
to them,
right.
where they will be able to earn money. The ice will disappear.
European winter has
Tourism.
come.
Yes, business will improve, and everything is wonderful.
And of course, they don't understand the consequences, because it is already clear that there is no snow, meaning there is no meltwater in spring. If there is no meltwater, then the river's level will drop. If the river's level drops, then the fish will disappear, and possibly drought will occur.
The ecosystem is damaged.
Yes, it will be. Agriculture will suffer.
And, excuse me, what have we observed this year? How really catastrophically the water level has lowered.
Yes, in all rivers.
In the rivers.
Right.
In the lakes, in the rivers. This happens, excuse me, basically all over the world. Despite the fact that somewhere there are floods, somewhere in Dubai, they were flooded
Yes.
not so long ago, and the like. In other words, somewhere there is too much water, while somewhere there is no water at all. But everyone all over the world basically observes that the water level is decreasing. This is physics. There is a lot of water underground, no less than on the surface. But for some reason they count only the water which is on the surface. And therefore, in order for such a great flood, the deluge, as they call it, to occur, the ice must melt, the level will rise. Guys, but hasn't anyone got alarmed that water disappears somewhere, and for what reason?
Despite that ice is melting.
Well, the ice is melting,
Yes.
there should be
The water drains away. It should be
Exactly.
the other way around.
an increase, yet water drains away,
Entire
certainly.
rivers drain away and disappear.
From time immemorial, it has been mentioned that the earth is breathing, that it has a tendency to slightly expand and then contract. It's again one of those stages of these climate changes. This suggests that the problem is taking place inside the planet itself. This trouble is quite serious. And since water decreases and it goes into the ground, it will soon come out of it in much larger volumes. It's like, when the tsunami is approaching. Prior to tsunami, water in an ocean recedes from the coast. It doesn't recede much, but then it goes much farther than it has receded. Well, that's roughly what we encounter. And do you know what else is the saddest thing? I would say that the biggest catastrophe is happening in people's heads around the world. Because many pondered and caught themselves thinking that this humanity should be destroyed. And inside, many agree with this. And that's the paradox. And many even assert that humanity must be destroyed. But no one wonders where they've got such confidence and such a thought in their heads from.
Yes.
And no one ponders what the consequences of such thoughts are. And it's true, very many people think about it. I'd even say this thought came basically to everyone, and they agreed with it.
This also symbolizes, yes, that it is coming.
This is one of the indicators and main indicators of the end of the world. Before, when the scary story appeared, some people were scared, some people had something else, but everyone had confidence in the future. Today, people have almost no confidence in tomorrow, but there is an understanding that this civilization must end, and end badly. These are mindsets in the head. It's a program that is starting to work. It works both in the outside world and in the inner world of almost every person. And it's hard to overcome all this. Will people be able to join hands under such circumstances and all together start taking care of each other, not themselves, but of each other? Well, this is a necessary factor.
If they live guided by consciousness, then it is impossible.
That is the answer.
It's paradoxical that sometimes they cannot take care of themselves because the news in the headlines
And
prizes...
it won't be possible to take care of yourself if we do not take care of each other. In this particular case, when it comes to globality, or when it comes to the survival of humanity as a whole, and those changes which we can still bring today so that we have tomorrow, no one will be able to take care of themselves. It works differently. In this case, we have to take care of each other. We must trample on our pridefulness, start looking towards God. If we don't do that, they'll say again, it's sectarianism. No, guys, it's not sectarianism, it's a necessity. Believe me, very soon everyone will be convinced that God exists.
Well, yes, because people who are guided by consciousness, even understanding the inevitability of disaster, they try, to arm themselves, to create some reserves, to keep everyone out,
Surely.
as if they can survive alone.
Yet what will they be able to do? And how can they survive if the world changes?
Of course.
I'll say more, did Mars survive?
No.
So why should this planet survive? If the planet that was in more favorable conditions and was richer and better didn't survive? Well, no one has any doubts now that there was water, that there was life, that there was a civilization on that planet. There's too much evidence of that. Well, where is Mars? After all, there wasn't just one planet in this solar system. I'm not talking about Phaeton, okay? But planet Earth. It exists. Its history is much longer. The mass of artifacts proves this. Nowadays, any curious person can find a lot of evidence. Let's say that it is not 100,000 years since we appeared, but there were people millions of years ago. There was humanity and there were civilizations no less developed than now. There are too many artifacts that cannot be erased, and there's a lot of evidence. And thank God, many scientists start talking about this, even though the system itself resisted this very strongly. And, excuse me, the scientific community resisted this very much. They say, well, where's the evidence for that? While they themselves hid all the artifacts and expelled from their ranks those scientists, so to say, who tried to say something and tell the truth when people encountered this, yes? Found a lot of evidence for this. Well, thank God not everything was destroyed and there's a lot of everything. Let's not repeat this. But fact is fact.
Igor Mikhailovich, yes, there is a negative program. Yes, indeed, many scientists say and voice that this is God's punishment. And indeed, we can hear...
This is not God's punishment, by no means.
Yes,
God never punishes anyone. And it's true. It is we ourselves who create these conditions.
Yet, can this program be changed? After all, it is in people's power, isn't it?
On the whole, we will not change it. We will still face a huge disaster. The question can be different now. Can catastrophe be avoided for our entire humanity? It can be. Can humanity be saved? It can be. And just recently, the question was just the way you posed it. And we raised it. Didn't we raise these questions? Didn't we talk about it? That, guys, we can still change a lot. And just a little is needed. Indeed, a little is needed. And we can stop this, and this won't happen. Did they hear us?
Of course not.
Now, yes, now they already hear. They're discussing this in Davos. Why? Because firstly, they faced the reality that came to them. And they see economic losses. They see a threat to their lives. And they've started talking about it. Life has forced them. So should humanity be treated like that? Should they be confronted with the choice, either you die or you survive? Is that the way? The way of a reasonable person? A simple question. But why do they not hear when it's peaceful? Answering your question again. Yes, now we can still do something. And like I said at the beginning of the program, in order to do this, we need to unite. This is already the level, not so much of governments and states, as the entire humanity, because there isn't much territory where you can create, let's say, such an ark for all of humanity, where there is enough space for everyone, and build Eden, in the modern sense, let's say. However, this is realistic, but this requires the will of all people. Otherwise, nothing will be done. But still, we can do a lot. The question is, will we do it or not?
Well, we will try.
It's clear that we will try, despite all the resistance and insults from human consciousness, let's say. But eventually, they will come to this again. They will come running again and will start shouting, let's do this, when it will be already too late. Well, isn't that so? And that's the trouble.
It's paradoxical that what role consciousness assigns to people. The recent events are the fires in Australia, right? This is really something that impressed a lot of people around the world, and they felt that they should act somehow and do something. But then again, what kind of actions are these? A lot of famous people with a huge audience are raising topics that there is such a situation in Australia, let's chip in $1 per person for a koala or kangaroo food. And this understanding that this is actually a very easy decision, but how the system diverts, say, to completely another goal, directs to other.
And I have a simple question. While we will collect $1 per person to save some koala, but at the same time forget about people, we will divert our attention from the goal, the main goal of saving each other, and we'll direct it to save some animals. Everything that is happening will accelerate and intensify. Here's the answer for you. You've raised a good question. Yes, I understand. I feel sorry for koala as well, but I feel much more sorry for the people who died, who were left without anything, and the like. Koala is an animal. It's nothing but a human being. means something in this world, because he can achieve much more. What no animal has been given, he can become part of the spiritual world. And the loss, even if not of an angel, let's say, but of the one who can become an angel, is much harder than the loss of all animals. Maybe I think differently, I don't know. I have different values.
I also wanted to give an example which, let's say, impressed me. An example of what the consumer society has come to. Again, in that very Australia, when we come across information in the news reports that people died because they didn't want to leave their property. So people are face to face with a disaster. I mean, it's not like it's coming somewhere. It's in front of their eyes. And there's a chance to save at least their bodies and...
But greed has won, yes?
Well, sort of greed wins in the consumer society.
It is just how far beyond this line we have gone. The line of consumption. The dominance of material values in our consciousness. That they overpower the instinct of self-preservation. And it seems to me that in a normal society, this would be a reason precisely for changing our society, so that we begin to value human life much more, and first and foremost, much more than anything material in this world. Isn't that so?
And the alternative to the consumer society is the creative and constructive society. Nowadays, many people are looking for solutions. And how it can be created, how it can be described, and how the idea of it can be conveyed to people. Because if you ask basically the majority of the population if they're satisfied with the society we live in, they will still say,
of course not.
Exactly that no, they are not satisfied. That in any case, something is wrong. And even if some people cannot describe it in words, they do feel that society is organized not even fairly or unfairly, but that it doesn't give a sense of fulfilled life.
It is parasitic.
Yes.
It is aimed at exploiting one another. It is consumerist.
Yes. Many even give an example. There are prosperous countries, for example, in Northern Europe, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland after all, where there is a fairly high standard of living, free education, and free high-quality medicine. Nevertheless, again, are people happy there? Yes, there is calmness there. I would even say, it is my opinion, there is even some kind of boredom, if I may say so, but there is no happiness. And I even came across such things that are also very typical of modern humanity, that when a person is in some kind of trouble, or if, for example, he is lying on the street, people will just pass by. Why? They will say, well, it's his choice. He has chosen this, so he is lying on the street, right? And they will not come up, will not help him. But after all, this is also very important. And who knows what can happen to the person?
Of course.
And again, maybe it's his choice, but his choice is wrong. After all, it's human's life that is very valuable.
Certainly.
In any case, to save, to give him a chance is still very important. While in Western society, even in such prosperous countries, everything is presented approximately in the following manner. Well, it's he who has chosen this. For example, he himself went camping and got in trouble. So why save him? It was his choice to go camping.
Yes.
It's his own fault.
Or he came to such a life. He himself decided to drink and degraded to living on the streets. Why help him, right? It's his choice. But this also excludes human relationships. Still, this transforms them into some kind of relationship of the animal world, where every strongest individual doesn't care about his neighbor at all.
About the weak one.
About the weak one, yes. And this also indicates that there is no well-being, even in those artificially, let's put it so, seemingly prosperous countries. I will even give you the following example. I was on a business trip to France and also had a conversation. Well, there is a family there, a brother, a sister and a father, and they have their own business. Well, we talked about life, what it's like living in France. Do they like it? They said, it's good. We have high-quality medicine, education is free, or it costs very little money. They like it in general. Okay, then why did this yellow vest go out? And it was a mass demonstration. And they said, we don't know. Yes, there is something wrong anyway. We understand that there is something wrong with that. For example, they can discuss a politician, whether they like this politician compared to the previous one, or he is better or worse, but they also understand that there is no happiness. It's not even about some extra comfort maybe, but there is no happiness.
But happiness cannot be measured by any comfort or level of wealth. Happiness is an immaterial component. As long as we are, dominated by material values, people will always be dissatisfied. There will always be protesters, there will always be those who disagree. The most important thing is the spiritual component, human values in the highest sense. When they dominate in society, then everything will be fine.
Priorities should be changed.
Of course, the priorities should be spiritual, or at least the highly moral ones.
Yes, it turns out that a consumer society has superseded human qualities that make a person human,
Yes.
and accordingly make him happy and joyful and loving. So why does a person not rejoice? Because he has forgotten what joy is. It's when you are of benefit to another person, when you are of benefit to society, when you sort of do not waste your life in vain, but live, you really live. And you only have the joy because you can serve someone, that you can,
For someone,
yes, to live.
This is a very important point which has also been raised now about the fact that civility is actually perceived in modern society as an increase in some economic indicators. That we have civilized countries,
Yes.
it is...
I would deduce the following formula. The consumer-based order means society for me, while the creative and constructive one means I am for society.
Great.
So if this paradigm doesn't change, then nothing will happen. And even if we return to the climate, in this situation, can people unite to do something? We've already said, yes, they can. There are still chances. We should work. But until we learn to think, I am for society and not society is for me, nothing will happen, nothing will change. Yes, life forces them. Situations force people to think a little differently, change something. Like I said, we tried to convey to people. We did a lot, informed them, but people didn't hear. Life forced them that they've started talking, both in Davos and everywhere around. They've started talking about unification now, but it is far from what is needed and not the right way. It's not enough. People should do it all, and not under constraint. Then it will be right way. And if they begin to unite under constraint, while standing on the edge of the cliff, will they join their hands and jump together or what? Is that the meaning of humanity? You should join hands much earlier, when you are only being pushed to the cliff, in order to hold together and not to approach it, because afterwards it will be too late to decide anything. And who is to blame? Again, God won't let that happen. And what does it have to do with God, if it's people's choice, the choice of society? He has nothing to do with it. God gave life, the opportunity to gain life eternal, isn't it so? It is. But how do we use it? What have we done with this chance? We have forgotten about it and begun to serve whom?
The system, Satan.
The one who gives life here.
Right.
In other words, we have a different king, a different God, in society as a whole. And the result corresponds to that.
We have certainly shifted responsibility to politicians and scientists, basically
To the devil, right? Simply put, we have shifted the responsibility for our spiritual development to Satan. And we hope that everything will be fine. Isn't it funny? Not for me. It's true. And frankly speaking, I am glad that nowadays a lot of people in Alatra, around the world, understand this. They stand on the right position. They try to convey to people, to help people, the elementary understanding, elementary knowledge. But frankly speaking, on the other hand, I am sorry that people spend their energy not to be heard. I simply feel sorry.
Yes.
But it gives them a personal spiritual growth. And this is rewarding. This is good. If we cannot save all of humanity, then at least we'll save ourselves. We won't be able to, let's say, preserve civilization, but we will gain life. This is also good.
but we must try.
This is the most extreme case. Of course, it is necessary and important. We have to do everything that depends on us, and everything we can, everything that is in our power.
Anyway, the information is appearing, and we see that today it is being picked
Of
up.
course it
is
is.
being more and more picked up.
Surely.
There already appear scientists in the world, real scientists, who are not afraid to tell the truth about...
Life has forced them.
Well, yes.
They began to appear and openly tell this truth. When, everything has already happened. Not everything, the beginning. But everyone sees that it is a cyclical process, and everyone sees that it is happening, and everyone already clearly understands. Certainly scientists do understand that this is only the beginning of a big disaster, and they are already weighing, what do I lose? I won't live to the retirement anyway. I can talk already. And just remember how we persuaded them to literally open their mouths and announce this 4 or 5 years ago. After all, they already understood this. We proved this to them. They saw this. We already proved this, by the facts, from the perspective of their science. How many of them say, raise the flag, and act it? There was silence, yes? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
I also don't remember. Who stood openly next to us and said that. Nevertheless, they told us one thing. Well, they criticized us on other cameras. They called us sectarians and schizophrenics. Didn't that happen?
Yes, it did.
It did. And now, the same people from the big rostrums are announcing what we warned them about 5 years ago. Isn't that right?
It's just obvious how the result of this cowardice backfired now.
But if they hadn't understood it then, there wouldn't have been. It's not a grudge, no. It's banal justice. It's a banal level of measurement of humanness. And due to this level, or rather, in accordance with it, the punishment comes. Isn't that fair? Absolutely fair. When a person sees, has the opportunities, and understands that in his position, with his status, he can announce and open the mouth of many people,
Right.
can create a precedent and prove this. We have nothing to do with their specialty. We're not climatologists, right? We are people of different professions, but we are gathered, we understand this, we studied this, we know this. We saw this and observed. Let's put it in this way. Well, we knew what was going to happen, and we talked about that. And they agreed with us, because they saw it and we proved it to them. But they were afraid to open their mouth, because their status, let's say, was much more important. They were afraid of losing the respect of their colleagues. So, my friends, did you lose it? Did you gain it? Didn't you? You're now respected. You're again ahead of the entire planet, telling us about the disaster that came to us and which is coming. But why were you silent then? That's the truth of life. And it's worth thinking about. And who are they after that? And is it possible to pin hopes on such people, on such a society? But what do we endow them with? We endow them with status. We distinguish them. We look up to them because they are great scientists. They are leaders of our world. Isn't that right?
Well, yes.
Great.
And here's the answer for you guys, who these leaders are. And to wait for some decisions from them when they, are completely illiterate and couldn't see a centimeter ahead while we are talking about kilometers. What can we expect from them? Now, yes, of course they speak because this is already here, you can't hide it anymore. So will we wait till we are pushed to the cliff, will we? And we will only have one step left, and then we will begin to join hands, begin to build cities and save ourselves, except there will be nowhere to build cities, because everything is developing in accordance with our society.
It is interesting that consciousness of many has certainly judged these scientists now. But if you look at ourselves...
You have to judge your own one.
Exactly.
Guys, no need to judge. They are the same people as you are, absolutely the same. Basically, I state a fact and cite them as an example, not for judging them. They know their mistake, and many have already called us, because they are too ashamed to look into our eyes. That's why they called. The point is that everyone has this. This is an assessment of society as a whole. That's the point. And it is not about belittling someone or exalting someone.
Like underestimation.
All belittling and exalting at this point, all this is ridiculous.
Yes.
I'll put it this way. Do you know who is ahead of the entire planet? The one who is alive. That one has nothing to fear. And this is the highest value. This is the meaning of human existence here, to gain life. If a person has gained it, then he has nothing to fear. Isn't that so?
Yes.
It is so. And this is the most important thing.
It's just that when you value life in yourself, you certainly value it in another person too.
Absolutely right. And then you will try to save people, not koalas, if you have a choice. But if you have saved people, then you can take care of koalas. They are cute animals. Chihuahuas should also be saved. They deserved it.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Also, some old picture of the world has got clearly fixed in consciousness. Many people think that the climatic situation on the planet is basically the same as the one they studied at geography classes.
Yes, exactly.
Subtropics, equatorial, tropical, and temperate zones, whereas in fact everything changes so quickly, even the coastlines are already changing.
Everything is changing.
And what used to be so inviolable, unshakable in each zone, now these changes are happening in every country.
Do you know what else the trouble is? The trouble is that people expect that even if something happens, it will be happening extremely slowly. Guys, but what about history lessons? For example, the biblical flood.
Exactly.
Because these aren't jokes. And those who studied this topic from the perspective of science and studied seriously, they see that the mountains were flooded and everything else. But how did so much water appear overnight? Is it because all the glaciers suddenly melted or what? How, and kilometers of water have appeared? Well, we have mentioned that the earth breathes, it absorbs water, and having contracted, gives it away. And this happens instantly. It can happen overnight.
It already happened on the planet. I've recalled excavations in Germany where they found that there was a tsunami more than a kilometer high, which...
They call it tsunami because they don't know where the water came from. Yet the water came, and there are a lot of traces everywhere around.
Yes.
They just shouldn't lie to people. Again, we return to those who know this, but who are silent, because their reputation is much more important to them. Yes, let humanity die by this. Won't happen today after all, right? Yes, it will die tomorrow. In 5, 10 years, in 20 or 100 years, who cares? After all, there are still 5 years, right? Will I be a reputed scientist or a laughingstock for others during 5 years? Well, guys, so what? Well, we are the laughingstock and still remain the laughingstock for others now. Has it somehow affected us? Have we lost weight because of that or gained it if you didn't want to lose it? You know, I'll put it simpler. Dogs always bark at people. Let them bark. If you're a dog, this will hurt you. It means that you understand their dog's language, and what one dog has told you hurts you. I don't know the dog's language, and I couldn't care less about what it barks, praises or scolds me. It's much more important for me to have people near me, so that we can do something with them. That's what is important.
It's just that this underestimation is still going on. It's a very big problem that people don't understand their significance.
Of course.
Precisely for society, that now...
What can I do, right?
Yes, what can I do?
I'm an ordinary person. What can I do?
I'm an ordinary person. Can I?
But who does the society consist of? Of ordinary people, people like us. And any of us is a part of society, and without this ordinary person, society is incomplete. What can he do? He can do everything.
You once gave an example about the cells of one organism.
Quite right.
Meaning if there is a shortage of cells, then the body won't function either.
Certainly.
In other words, it's a mechanism.
Let's take out cells from the heart or from the liver. Is this a complete organism? Of course not. It's bad when cells are sick. However, the sick cells can be cured, but when they are gone, there's nothing to cure anymore. It is the same with society. The society without a single person is incomplete, and this is where the importance is. Well, everything depends on people.
Yes, it is time to actually grow up, because consciousness is pumping off some childish model like in a kindergarten.
Childhood.
Yes, like in a kindergarten. You will be warned, and holding hands all together you will be taken to some safe place or so on.
One good person said, "The whole trouble of our society is that it is infantile. Each of us individually matured long ago, while society still remained in childhood. There is something in it."
How can the whole society mature if everyone individually has actually matured?
The trouble is that everyone individually hasn't matured. This is just chatter. If you look inside everyone, childishness, stupidity, basic dominant animal's desires, both for a monkey and a human, where he invests his attention and what he lives by, sheer egoism and hatred of truth. Isn't that so?
Yes.
Even now, a wave of negativity is coming towards us. Why?
Yes, that's right. Everyone surely takes care of himself. We've also raised this topic that some are happy.
That's the point. The truth is hard to swallow.
Yes.
Well, excuse me, you have to live with this truth. It's up to you whether it's for a long or for a short time, but you'll have to live with it.
It's painful to hear that people are happy with the fact that everything will be fine for me. Climate change for our state will backfire from the positive side, while those who are there
will grow potatoes twice a year.
Yes. And it's painful that society is not perceived as a whole unit.
You see, if trouble was only that, it would be getting warmer. It's no trouble. For many people, it's all good. Is the problem that somewhere it will get warmer and somewhere else it will get colder? Well, so what? If it has redistributed, those who like warmth will move to the place where it's warm. Those who like snow will move to a place where it's snowing. The trouble is in chaos and destruction. After all, these changes lead to destruction and elimination, and many people know about this. That's where the trouble is. And it's fine if it would be just the destruction of economy. You know, you can completely destroy the entire economy of the world, and then you can restore it together, and there will be no big trouble. We humans will survive, if we want to. Well, it's not a question of destroying the economy, it's about destroying the planet. Do you know what the funniest thing is? History always repeats itself. Once someone tried to do something, let's say both on other planets and in other civilizations. The same way he talked, and we eventually see completely empty red planets. Why? While they had life. Because someone talks whereas someone doesn't hear, and someone who hears says, "It doesn't concern me," or "They talk nonsense."
They are inactive, they don't support this wave.
Absolutely right. A banal inaction, what does the human enemy do? It immobilizes. And this is the scariest thing that can be. A person understands, feels, knows the truth, but he is inactive.
Yes.
This is the service to the one whom you should not serve. And the person always serves. It doesn't matter whether he is a believer or an atheist. Any person serves, either God or the devil. There is no other way. When many people serve the devil, why does God need such a world? We choose,
Yes.
and we make it ourselves. Everything is simple. And it doesn't matter whether a person believes in God or not. It is important if God does not believe in humanity, then there is trouble already. Then there happens what happens. And as we've already said, such justice has slipped through consciousness of many people that this world should already end, that civilization has deserved destruction. Friends, you have good thoughts in your heads. They are fair towards yourself. But for some reason, you don't include yourself, right? An interesting work of consciousness.
To everyone.
It says, it's fair that the world will collapse, whereas it's unfair if I will die or suffer. Selfishness and short-sightedness. Well, what will you do? The facts are what they are. But is it still possible to do anything? Yes, it is still possible. If nothing could be done, we wouldn't try anymore. We wouldn't do anything. Would we?
Right.
We wouldn't waste our time, forces, money on you, my friends, trying to prove something to you. And many of our real friends wouldn't do with us what we are doing now. Wouldn't they?
Surely.
Yes, we would rest, enjoy while we have warmth. We would enjoy life, even if not for a long time, but would enjoy it.
Well, everything still depends on us. I mean,
It depends on ourselves.
there is still a chance. We can still fix everything.
Not everything, but we can do
We
something.
are ordinary people, but at least
We
something.
can do a lot, let's put it so.
Yes.
What can we do? We can do a lot. Not everything. Because there are things that are already irreversible. We will not change everything, but we can rebuild much better than it was. And this is also the truth. We can make the world a lot more beautiful than it was. Or it still is. Excuse me, I'm jumping to conclusions.
I like very much that you said that every day, every minute, every person passes some inner test on humanism.
Surely.
And let's say he has a choice how to use his life as well. And it actually concerns not only his life. Not everyone understands
The responsibility, of
that
course.
the lives of millions of people are behind him. This is what people do not understand.
That's the point. Each of us is responsible for society as a whole. So, my friends, let's live in dignity and with responsibility. Let's love, respect each other, and live the way that we wouldn't be embarrassed in front of society, and that society could be proud that we are with it. Thank you very much. Excuse me for the truth.